Welcome everybody to the Realberg Experience, a podcast for creative individuals from all walks of life. We talk to rap stars, politicians, photographers, you name it. Maintain and entertain, I bet the show gon' get famous. So go and take a seat and let the people get to meet the innovative individual that you will be. Let's go. Welcome everybody to the Realberg Experience, the podcast for creative individuals from all walks of life. I am your host, DP, and today we welcome a special guest. It is none other than Miss Madam Lady, the boss of all bosses, the most stress on her shoulders for sure. Nobody has a bigger job than the one and only Miss Teri Johnston. Thank you, Teri, for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Damali, for having me on.
It's definitely a pleasure. It's been a while since I last saw you, and the world has flipped upside down, to say the least. How has things been for you?
Well, it's been challenging for all of us. There's a lot of anxiety. We're used to going through hurricanes, but hurricanes have a start and a finish. I mean, you come out of your house at the end of the hurricane, you say, okay, got to clean that up, got to put a new roof on, let's go. But this is something very different, and it's created a lot of anxiety in our community. It's also created a lot of really good things, like people helping people, and Sister Season and the United Way and the food banks, and it's really brought out a lot of wonderful humanity also. But it's a challenge for every person
here. Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, who could know that the world will be what it is now, and to have to run a campaign through COVID, it's like, how do you actually manage? Well,
one of the ways that I've been very grateful for is that I have a large group of supporters and donors, and we went out first week of COVID and said, look, this is going to be very different, and they understood it and they expected it. And they've really done a marvelous job under circumstances. But it's different. Last campaign, I was out. I did a lot of one-on-one things, a lot of meet and greets, and we had a big kickoff where we were able to talk about our message. And this time you just simply cannot do that. It's not the responsible thing to do. So we're doing a lot of things via video, and thankfully podcasts like your own, in order to get the message out and to get the platform out and to let people know a little bit about you and how I differ from the other candidates.
Tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me about your time in Key West. How long have you actually been down here?
We've been here for over 20 years. And before then, we had vacationed down here for a number of years. In fact, Dar and I used to come down here in a 38-foot RV. We used to drive it from Illinois and spend about 6 months out at Boyd's RV park. And we fell in love with Key West. And we were trying to decide where we wanted to go, because we're originally from the Midwest. We knew we wanted to be somewhere warm, so we would go to California and look at a couple spots, and then we'd come to Florida and look at some spots. And we just always kept coming back to Key West, because there was something undescribable, different, freeing, just a very different environment than we had seen anywhere else in the United States. And we've done a lot of world traveling too, but Key West is something very special.
When you came to Key West, you didn't immediately jump into politics, did you?
No, good Lord.
It feels like it, right?
It does feel like. First of all, Dar and I came down and we got our business established. We own a small construction company, so we got our business established, but it also gave us time to really get to know the community. And, we were involved in some breast cancer awareness things to start off with. And then Irma hit after we were here for about 5 years. Wilma hit. And when Wilma hit, I think, we were all put into a situation where our windstorm insurance rates were doubling and tripling. And I got involved in a neighborhood group called FIRM, Fair Insurance Rates in Monroe. And two of our neighbors said, come on over for a meeting. So Dar and I went over. And basically, it was the fact that people were getting their new insurance rates. And for a 1,300 square foot concrete block structure, they had gone from $5,000 to $10,000 in the rates. So, the long and short of that, Damali, was that we got really involved in the organization. I was the first president of the organization. We went to Tallahassee. We fought for lower windstorm rates, and we were very fortunate in order to get those. And to date, we have saved Monroe County over $750 million in rate fees just from the actions of that small independent group called FIRM. So that's actually what got me into politics, because I thought, well, that worked out pretty well. We went to Tallahassee. They listened to us. We got what we wanted. So this politics thing must be pretty easy. And the very next year, I decided that I would run for the District 5 seat. And District 5 had an incumbent and one other challenger. And I ran in a three-way race and won that race. And that's what got me started in 2007 in politics.
In 2007?
Yep.
So you've been doing politics for some time, definitely.
Yep. I was a city commissioner for District 5, which is Midtown, from 2007 until 2015. And in 2015, I got off of the commission, and I actually got appointed to the Monroe County Planning Board. And then I spent some time on the Monroe County Land Authority Board. And it got me involved in a little broader area that involved the county. And then when Craig Cates had termed out in 2018, there was a lot of people that had hopped into the race, and I thought, no, it's my time to get back into politics. So I threw my hat in the ring and won that race. We ran in that field of 13 candidates. I was actually in a runoff with Margaret Romero and won the runoff in November of 2018 and have been mayor ever since.
And it started out pretty smooth, huh?
well, smoother than right now, for sure.
That's like, I can remember like at that time when you were elected, and I thought to myself, I think I even said something to you, I was like, man, you'll never sleep. You'll never sleep, you know, because like now your job, you know, we did all that work before just to get to that point, and then the job begins, you know what I mean? It's like, and now. So how are you handling things? Oh,
you know what? We're handling them day by day. And, you know, when we talk about COVID, it's something that changes hourly. You know, the numbers change hourly, the testing changes hourly, the hospital count changes hourly, our directives from the governor and the county change hourly, as well as directives from the city. And that's one of the things that I hear all the time, is that it is so confusing, and it is confusing. It really is. We try and make it as simplified as possible, but things that happen in Key West are very different than things that happen in Sugarloaf or Key Largo or Islamorada or somewhere like that. So we do have some individual measures that are just geared at Key West, and they're geared at Key West primarily because we are the tourist destination in the county. I mean, we bring in 3 million tourists a year. We've got one of the largest economies in the Keys. So we have a little different situation down here than there is in Islamorada or Tavernier. You know, they cope with their own things right now. They cope with the traffic that comes back and forth across that border from Miami-Dade, which is the epicenter of the United States right now as far as COVID. We're a little different because we're a vacation destination. So we've got people flying in every day and coming in and staying in hotels and vacation rentals and a lot of drive downs for the weekends. So we've got a little different situation. So that's the reason that we've had different guidelines and regulations depending on the municipality.
I got people walking up to me since I've done one interview with one politician, and now like I walk down Duval Street and I got 10 people wanting to beat me up, man. Man, it's this, and why is this happening? But one of the biggest issues that they have right now is with the mask and the law that has came down with the mask as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I do, and thanks for the opportunity. And every scenario we set down as a city. I sat down with Greg Velez and Patty McLaughlin and Sean Smith, and Greg will poll the city commissioners, but it's basically everything that we are instituting is geared around one thing, and that's the science, that's the recommendations from our healthcare industry, and with one focus in mind, and that's to keep our community healthy. And we keep going back to that, Damali, because, you know, on one side we've got people screaming about the economy, but we are never going to have a healthy economy if we don't have a healthy community. we draw all of our service workers from our community. You know, we draw a lot of our customers from our community. So first and foremost, we have to have a healthy Key West before we can build back our economy. We were talking to Bob Eady, who, for those of you who do not know him, he's the executive director of the Department of Health. And we had a conversation today, in fact, and Bob was saying, you know, even if 50 or 60% of the people in Key West would wear masks from the time you leave your home until the time you come back home, in 2 weeks we would see a marked difference in the number of positive cases that we've got. And that really, really kind of solidifies the fact that we're doing the right things. And I know they're uncomfortable and they're miserable, and you don't like to wear them when you're walking the dog, and you don't like to wear them when you're jogging, but it is a temporary measure. It's a temporary measure to get us healthy so that we can come back strong, so that we can build back our economy, we can put people back to work, and we can have the Key West that we all know and love. So it's a short-term responsibility for a long-term gain.
And if this doesn't work, what's the next step?
Well, we are really hoping that this works. We're hoping that this brings down the numbers, because right now, as everybody knows, we're in a spike. We're in a considerable spike. We've got 14 people in the hospital right now, and the next measure really are to close down the town again. And there's not one elected official, there's not one person in City Hall that would like to see that happen, because I can't even imagine what our community is going to look like if we have to close down a second time. So we are pulling out all the stops. I know some people think some of these measures are draconian, but they are there for a purpose. They're there so that we can stay healthy. We're keeping people healthy around us. If you're sick, stay home, wash your hands, and social distance. I mean, those are really, when you think about it, they're very, very simple things to do so that we can keep our town open, and so that, most of all, we can keep our town healthy.
What can you do? It's like from this point on, you know, everybody should be masking up, because it seems like it's either mask on or roadblock up. You know, I feel like that's the decision right now.
And that's about where we're at. Every one of the county mayors wrote a letter to our governor and said, look, it would be so much easier if you would make masks mandatory throughout the state of Florida. Because then all those people coming from Miami-Dade and all over the state, and that's our primary drive-down market, is from the state of Florida. So all those people would know. Once they got to Key West, you got to wear a mask just like everywhere else in Florida. And nobody's going to be defensive or confrontational or any of that, because it's going to be standard operating procedure. But we cannot get him to budge. We cannot get him to make Florida a mandatory mask state. But most of the communities now, many of the communities, are going to mask from the time you open up your front door until the time you come back in that front door.
Now, you as a politician, I see you as a classy lady. Like, I know you have the big guns. I know you I know you was the softball pitcher of the year and whatnot. But how do you handle, you know, politics now? Because it's not like a classy game, you know. It's like things are different now, to say the least.
Yeah, things are so much different now, and unfortunately, you know, the science has been politicized. The helping your neighbor has been politicized. You know, doing the right thing has been politicized, and it makes it really, really difficult for people to do the right thing. But we have to. I mean, we have to in order to get healthy. It really is a short-term, short-term obligation for a really long-term fix, and we've got to do that. But it has gotten nasty, and we've got lots of disagreements that are going on right now, and none of them are based around health, really. Because when you think about it, we would all be on the same path, heading down the same route. But we have a number of people, in fact, you know, some of my opponents, who don't feel that masks are required. And yet that's not what our local physicians, that's not what the Department of Health, that's not what the CDC is telling us. You need a mask in order to be healthy. So I'm going to continue to lead by example. I'm going to have a mask on every time that you see me. And I would hope that everyone else in the political arena and in our town do the same thing, because it really is what's going to get us healthy and keep us open. So we need to do the right thing. But it also, it also transcends up the state. I mentioned that the governor will not put forth a mandatory mask order. And unfortunately, the lack of leadership there has led Florida to be the hot spot in the United States right now, with Miami-Dade, being on the news all too frequently as being, one of the most infected areas in the United States. And then you tack that on to a federal level where we really don't have a federal program. We don't have a federal leadership. We don't have a federal plan. And so everything has been tamped down to the state level, and unfortunately in the state of Florida, it's been tamped down to the local level. So all the decisions have been put down on the county and on the municipalities. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I am so grateful for, Damali, is the fact that I've got the city commission and I have the city staff that I have right now, because we have been a very united team. I mean, we've made some very tough decisions since the first week in March, and we've been on board. We've been together. None of them have been easy. Every one of them meets with objections because we have one group of people who would like to shut Key West down tighter than a drum, and we'd like to have another group of people, including a couple of my opponents, that would like to open it wide up. And I just, we've got to have some balance. We've got to do the right things, and we've got to do them for the short term so we really can get people back to work, and we can get our economy going. And that's the second thing that I just wanted to mention, is that we have a broken unemployment system. And again, that falls at the state level. We've got people out there right now that are in need of help and just cannot get it from our unemployment system. In fact, right now I'm working with about 120 residents, along with Holly Risheim, who is our representative in Tallahassee, and her assistant, Sarah Craven, in order to try and get some unemployment assistance and get the checks out that people are due. But it's a perfect storm right now. I will say that.
If there were ever a time to attack, right, for the aliens, this would be the time right now.
This would be it. We're vulnerable right now.
Oh, tell me some difference between you and some of your opponents that you're going up against.
Well, first and foremost, I've got 10 years of city experience working with the city of Key West, and one of my opponents has 11 years of experience as a city commissioner. I'll tell you how we differ, though, is the fact that, first of all, I show up for every single meeting. In my 8 years as a city commissioner, I never missed one meeting or a budget meeting. And second of all, more importantly than just showing up, is that you need to be prepared, and you need to have read the material, and you need to be ready to actually represent your constituents on every single issue. Because, people don't elect you not to show up. People elect you to be there and to represent them at every single meeting. So that's one of the ways that we differ. And as such, I have been the first full-time mayor in the city of Key West, in there every day by 7:30, and I'm still there at 4. And I think that's what's made the difference in my administration, is the fact that I'm there to work with city staff, I'm there to answer questions. Any person that walks off of the street at any time of the day, walks into the lobby, comes back to my office, and we sit down and talk so we can work through the issues. And it really, really has made a difference. I think one of the other differences, and although this is a nonpartisan race, is the fact that I am a lifelong registered Democrat. And I think you see just some of the policy differences and how we approach things differently than my two opponents who are registered Republicans. But I think in essence, just by the party differences, you see how we approach things differently. I'm an environmentalist. I care about the long-term interest of the city of Key West. That's why I've spent so much time involved with climate change and sea level rise, because I truly believe that we've got 7 years to make a difference here. And we've got to make some bold, strong moves in order to protect our island life for our children and grandchildren to come. So you see great differences in how we approach things. And one of the last differences is that this COVID virus is very serious to me. I take the health and well-being of every one of our citizens very seriously. So I am going to act that way, and I'm going to follow our rules and regulations, and I'm going to get us healthy again so that we can get people back to work and our economy back on its feet. I know that it is at the state level and it's at the federal level, but as I mentioned before, I'm really disappointed in the job that our governor has done, and I am more than disappointed in the way that our president, Donald Trump, has handled this COVID-19 outbreak. I don't think you'll ever hear me, as my opponents have done, praise the governor and our president on how they've handled this outbreak, because I think it could have been much different. I think we could have reacted much quicker, and I think we would have had a much better outcome. But here we are. We're in today, and we are going to handle it. We're going to manage it. We're going to come out of it a better, stronger Key West, and we're going to do it with decisive leadership.
So your opponents are talking about donating the salary. What are your thoughts on that? Are you going to be donating your salary?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, Damali, those two gentlemen have a lot more money than I have. A whole lot more money, both of them. And let me tell you about the salary, because as I mentioned before, I'm one of the first full-time mayors in recent history. And we figured it out the other night, and I make just shy of $9 an hour. And if you've taken a look at the city of Key West, minimum wage for the city of Key West is $15, so I am severely underpaid. But I can tell you this, Key West, you're getting every bit of that $9 an hour out of me. And you'll continue to.
I'm not working for $9. I'm telling you. No. $9. I won't do it. Yeah. Oh. So I think the last time I saw you was at the gym. It was for the Democratic Party. They were doing I want to say they were doing a local event, like a basketball tour. Now Monroe is actually the executive assistant?
Executive assistant. He's the executive assistant for the mayor and commissioners. And yes, we were at Douglas Gym, and we were actually having an event to restore voter rights, which has been a major issue, particularly in Bahama Village, to get people's rights to vote restored. And we had a really successful day. Plus, we saw some darn good basketball. And we had a poetry contest that night, if you remember.
Yes, I do. That was awesome, for sure. Yeah. How did you get around Monroe?
Well, I tell you what, I've known Monroe for a few years now. And I actually got involved with a group of young Bahama Village men and women who just wanted to know more about the city and about how they could contribute to the city. So we had some meetings in City Hall. Dar and I had them here a few nights for dinner, and we just talked about how you can contribute and, what's your role in the city. And we talked a lot about the elders of Bahama Village and passing the baton to the next group. And I tell you, there's a group of really dynamic young people, including yourself, in Bahama Village that are going to change our community. And I can't wait to get you involved. I put Monroe on the Parks and Recreation Board as my appointee. And then when this position came open, I don't know how it was, but I had a conversation with him, and he was up in Fort Lauderdale. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm not doing anything right now." And I got off the phone after talking to him for a few minutes, and I said to Dar, I said, he would be perfect. He would be perfect for the executive assistant, because that's another young man who's going to change the world. And he is so interested and involved. And he came in at such a fascinating time, because he is on the telephone 9 hours a day, talking to people, explaining, new regulations and the rationale behind the regulations. And he's just, he hopped in with both feet, and he's doing a marvelous job. He's going to be a tremendous asset to the city of Key West.
Yeah, I worked alongside Monroe at Southern Most, so I was there for probably about 7 years, and he was definitely a dedicated and hard worker at Southern Most. He kept track of the books and whatnot, and he was on top of his job, man. I'm glad to see that he's definitely gotten the promotion that he deserves, for sure, put him in a good position. Right now, I mean, like you're catching a pretty bad rap, because everything that happens, no matter what, it's all your fault. It doesn't matter if it's, the roadblock or the mask on. Anything that you want to say to the people about that, because I understand, I get it. You know what I mean? Like you're doing everything that you can to protect us from COVID, and it's not an easy decision, and you're not going to make everybody happy. You
No.
know.
Yeah, you really aren't. There isn't any decision that you can make right now that's going to make everyone happy. But that's what leadership is, Damali. It's making the tough decisions and then standing by those and modifying them if you need to, strengthening them if you need to. But I've got a laser focus on getting this community healthy. I mean, we have to. I had a whole campaign ready to go on all kinds of things, moving initiatives forward, and I put that all on hold because I need to stay focused on getting us healthy, getting our community healthy, putting people back to work, and getting our economy back on track. But they come in steps, and right now we got to get our community healthy. We've got one 167 bed hospital with 10 ICU units, and that makes us very vulnerable as a community. So my job is to get our numbers down, keep them down, get people back to work, and get our economy going. And everyone has sacrificed in this community. I mean, everyone has. Some more than others, but I've sacrificed in my political career in the fact that I love to be in City Hall. I used to host 8, 10, 12 meetings a week just to sit down with residents, to sit down with business owners, just to talk about where we can be as a city, what we can do different, how can we be more responsive to your needs. And I love that environment. For 2 years, I had that, and I truly miss seeing people, sitting down with people and just talking about what can we do different, what can we do better, how can I make your life easier while you're in Key West. And then on a personal level, Dar and I every Wednesday would host our oldest daughter and her husband and our 2 granddaughters who live in Key West, and we would have a family dinner. And I miss those family dinners. We had a lot of laughs, a lot of good food, and it's something that we haven't done since the first week in March, and I miss those dearly. But everyone in the city of Key West, as well as everyone in the world, is going through tremendous sacrifices right now. But we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it, and we're going to come out the other end stronger in a better, more resilient Key West, and I'm assured of that.
So what about cruise ships? Because I know that's a big deal for the campaigning this year as well.
Well, cruise ships have been a topic of conversation, and either for cruise ships or you're not cruise ships. And Key West has been divided, I think, since the very first cruise ship came in here. In fact, in 2013, when I was a city commissioner, we had a referendum. I don't know if you remember, but it was whether we should widen the channel or not. And I took a very strong position that no, we should not. I didn't feel that we needed to bring in bigger ships with more people. And that's one of the other things that I disagreed with one of my current opponents is that I didn't feel that the channel should be widened. The referendum that are coming in front of us November 3rd really are a long time coming. I mean, it's a conversation that we have been having in this town. So now it will come to a vote, and the people will really decide. And we've got 3 different issues on there. One is based on the environmental responsible ships coming in, and certainly making a priority to bring environmentally sound ships in. And I would find it hard that anybody would disagree with that. That we don't want cleaner ships that pollute less in our port. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Everybody wants a clean ship. The other 2 bring up a great deal of conversation because they're all based on disembarkations. One is based on the size of the ship, and one is based on the number of passengers that disembark. But there are also a great deal of people who say that we're overrun. When we have 3 cruise ships in, the size of the cruise ships that we're bringing in right now takes over downtown. But it takes over downtown for a very short period of time, from the time they dock until the time they get back on the ship and leave. And there's proponents for that and there's opponents for that. So we're going to hear on November 3rd how the community feels about that. And then the commission, because this will be a binding referendum, the commission will be bound by the decisions of that referendum. So we will follow the lead of the citizens, and we will basically do what the citizens have requested us to do as the city commission.
So has the cruise ships gave you any kickback from that?
Well, we've been meeting with the cruise ships since the COVID-19 because that whole industry is struggling, as I'm sure you can imagine. Most of the surveys say that the majority of people will not travel on a cruise ship for years, and at least until there is a vaccine out there that people are comfortable with. So I think the cruise ship industry in itself is reeling. But here's the fascinating thing. We have met with a number of representatives from the cruise line. In fact, we had 2 meetings with the senior management from Royal Caribbean, and it was fascinating because I just laid a question out on the table. How can we compromise here? And it was fascinating because they were all about compromise. And what shocked me the most was the fact that I believe it was Greg asked the senior management, and they said, "Well, why are you so willing to bring in smaller ships with less people?" And their answer was fascinating. They said to us, "You've never asked. You've never asked us to do so." And I don't know how much your listeners know about the cruise ship industry here, but we have no contracts with any of the ships that are out there. We actually schedule them. So we'll say you're coming in March 23rd, got you written down, and you're going to go to Pier B, or you're going to go to Mallory Square, or you're going to go to the Outer Mall. But basically, we don't have any contractual arrangements. So the senior management was saying, we would be more than willing to work with the city of Key West. And I think it is challenging because the number of really small ships that are out there right now are somewhat limited. But if you take a look at the trends, most of the trends are to the new ships that they're building are to a smaller, more environmentally friendly type of ship. And I remember during the 2013 referendum, because there were a lot of statements that were made up on the dais, and one of the statements was made is, "Mark my words, if you do not widen that channel, our cruise ship industry will be gone in 4 years." Well, not only was it not gone, but it had grown exponentially from there. So I think the cruise ship industry is going to help us a lot because they've got to change. Clearly, they've got to change. We still don't have one cruise ship that has scheduled to come into Key West, and the industry really is reeling and trying to find their way in a COVID environment and planning for a post-COVID environment. So it's going to be a very interesting referendum. I think a lot of good things are going to come from it, though.
Another big subject is low-income housing.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no low-income housing no more.
Well, no, actually there is. And that's one of the things, particularly that Commissioner Kaufman has been really, really adamant about. I don't know how many people know this, but for years we have been working on a 103 one-bedroom, one-bath apartment complex out on College Road. It's right where the old mosquito control building used to be and Easter seals. And we actually have all the plans done. We're doing some soil remediation right now, but we are getting ready to break ground. And in about 18 months, we will have 103 units. But the important thing, Damali, is that these are all low and very low income housing, which means that they will be well under $1,000 per rent. Plenty of parking out there, brand new apartments. So we're really looking forward to that. And there is a bus line there. There's actually 2 bus lines that stop right in front of that complex. So we're going to be providing at least 103 units. The quarry that was built by Topino's has 208 units, and they're putting in another, I believe, 58 units. Now, some of those are low income, some are very low income, and then they also have a mix of moderate and median. And then we have another project that's going right over the bridge in Stock Island, and that's a new 280 unit affordable housing project. So there will be a mix of units there also. So we're getting a lot of housing that's going to be created in and around Key West for for our workforce so that we can keep a quality labor force.
Yeah, that's close to 500 units, so
Yeah.
that's definitely a big step in the right
Yeah.
direction and
Yeah.
whatnot.
And
Got
it's
to be
tough.
half of that. I could
Yeah.
imagine, you know.
And in fact, in Bahama Village, we have the 3.2 acres that we are working on. And right after we get done with the multi-use field, we're going to start on the 3.2 acres. And right now we're in discussions about what that's going to look like. Bahama Village certainly has had, some major input into that, but we have a group that would like to see only low and very low, and we have another group that would like to see, a different type of mix to generate income to go back into the TIF fund for Bahama Village. So we'll get to a consensus on that shortly.
What do you think about the alcohol laws and whatnot right now? Is that just the county or is that statewide?
That's countywide, so it's all of Monroe County. But the county met on Wednesday, I think, for an 11-hour Zoom meeting. If you can sit through that one. But one of the issues that they addressed, and they addressed this because we had some pretty good controversy in Monroe County about mini lobster season. Do we want more people? Do we want more people coming down during that season? And the majority of the commission in Key West said no, we don't. So we voted to take it to the governor to cancel mini lobster season. We had several other municipalities in Monroe County that did the same. And then we had a couple that did not want to cancel it. And their rationale was the fact that they were going to come anyway. You couldn't stop them. That if they weren't going to come from mini lobster season, which is, I think, July 28th and 29th.
Yeah, end of the month, yeah.
That they were going to come the first week of season that they could. So we were just kind of pushing back our crowds by a week or two. So because we didn't have consensus, the Florida Fish and Wildlife decided that their recommendation would be that go ahead and host it. So one of the things that we're thinking about is if we happen to anticipate crowds down here, what would be our issue? And our issue would be crowds down on Duval Street. Well, our bars are already closed by a governor's order. So what the county decided was that it would be we would have an easier time controlling our crowds, our congestion, and a possible continuation of spread of COVID if we close down our restaurants. And they polled the restaurants, talked to a good number of restaurateurs who said, please don't close it at 10. I can please take it to 11. So the county decided that restaurants would be closed. Means the last patrons are out of there at 11 o'clock. That's until 5 o'clock the next morning when the staff comes in to get ready for the day. But also they added the caveat that all alcohol sales were going to end at 11 o'clock. And that's alcohol sales, whether it's in a restaurant. In the city of Key West right now, we have bars that can sell takeouts if they're in the original packaging, like airline bottles. So that will close down at 11 o'clock. Packaged goods stores will close down at 11 o'clock, and even grocery stores will stop selling alcohol at 11 o'clock. And that's really to help control the virus, because one of the things that happens when you mix alcohol with a large group of people, sooner or later the masks come off, social distancing stops, and all the precautionary measures kind of go out the window. So until we can get our numbers down, until we can bring ourselves into an area of numbers that's really manageable, the county has put through this ordinance, and it goes from July 24th until August 19th.
So you got your hands full, to say the least. I mean, it's like I said, man, like, when do you sleep?
Actually, I sleep really hard. By the time I hit that bed, I get a good solid 8 in, I'll tell you. But we get up really early. I'm a morning person. We're walking the dogs at 4:30. I'm in City Hall by 7:30 because I love mornings. I'm not a big late night person. I just can't do it at both ends anymore. But yeah, I sleep good. But this has been tough on everybody. It's been tough on families. It's been tough on school districts, and it's been a real character building time, I think, for all of us. And yet I get a sense that we all know we're going to come out of this. We're going to be okay. We got to do some things right now, but we're going to rebuild. Key West is just you know, we're so comfortable, and comfortable is not the right term. You know, we're so good at rebuilding. We've had to rebuild. We've rebuilt and changed from sponging to cigars to tourism. We rebuild. We do. We take a look at what we've got in front of us, and then we mold ourselves around that, and we make it work. And we make it work by a lot of compassion and caring, and just all good things. Just really all good things. But we're up for this challenge. We really are. We just got to get through this time while we're spiking. We got to get our numbers down. We got to do the right things, and then get on with life.
So if you don't take anything from this interview, mask up.
Yeah.
It's life and death. You understand? It's a serious situation. Not only life and death as far as health, life and death as far as closing down the economy, putting the roadblock up and whatnot. So, man, it's like, I say, when I say how do you sleep, it's like, because, man, it's like you just got so much work to do. I felt bad for you before you even took the job, man. So now it's like, boy, it's like, who throw this at us? See if she could.
You know, I was just telling somebody the other day, I'm just waiting for the boll weevils and the locusts, because I'm thinking those are the only two things that we're not dealing with right now.
Oh, man. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we close out?
Yeah, I first of all, I want to thank you, Damali. I mean, I can't sit across a more lovely human being than you, with a wonderful family. So thank you so much. I mean, you make this really easy to do. But I guess to everybody that's listening to this, to just let them know that we are going to come out of this. And I know these are challenging times, and I know they're hard times, and we're asking a lot of everyone. We really are. But we're asking this short term. I know every single week, Greg and Patty and Sean and I sit down and we review every single emergency measure to say, you know, do we still need it? Does it need to be stronger? Do we need to change it? Is it working? And we look at everything every week. So masks are not going to be forever. You know, they're going to be for a while. They're going to be until our numbers come down. But we're going to get them down. We've got a resilient community. We've got a really, really strong community. And we're going to come out of this on the other side a much better Key West.
Oh, I mean, before I close out, I almost forgot. Let the public know about the voting, like when that, because that's going to be soon, right?
Yep. In fact, vote by mail ballots have already gone out. They went out, I think I got mine last Saturday. However, you can still get a ballot by mail if you would like to vote that way. So just contact Joyce and she will get you one. Early voting starts on August 3rd, and that's done down at on Whitehead Street. So that runs from August 3rd to August 15th. And then you can vote at your precinct on August 18th. So if you liked what you heard on this podcast, please go to teriformayor.com. And on our site, we've got yard signs that our team will deliver and put up and take down. We've got t-shirts, we've got car magnets, we've got all sorts of stuff. So if you'd like to be on Team Teri, please contact us at teriformayor.com. But most importantly, I need your vote on August 18th to return as your leader, Mayor of Key West, Teri Johnston. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teri, for coming on the show today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the show with Miss Madam Lady with the big guns today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Miss Teri Johnston, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. Definitely humbled. And you guys get out and vote. Thank you for watching. As always, I'm DP. Miss Mayor, we're out.